Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree just got its first gameplay trailer and a release date for June 21st of this year. We've been anticipating this would be the release window, so now we get several months to catch everyone up on the gameplay mechanics for the current game and enjoy the slow drip of hype and news until the expansion's release. In this video, we'll be taking an in-depth look at everything that was revealed in the new DLC trailer, as well as all the information that's been spread around on the official site, from official interviews and more. So if you wanted to go deeper into everything that we know about Elden Ring's DLC, this is the video for you. The length of development has been fueling a lot of speculation surrounding the size of Shadow of the Erdtree. In addition, the Steam page for the game lists requirements as 60 GB, which is 25% larger than the base game, leaving many wondering what that means for the content itself. Fans of From Software will know that their DLC content is usually packed into small and pre-prepared DLC installments, such as the 3 Crowns of Dark Souls 2 or the 2 DLCs of Dark Souls 3. Bloodborne and Dark Souls, however, had individual expansions that featured new areas, enemies, and weapons or magic types. Elden Ring is taking the expansion approach, but game director Hidetaka Miyazaki has indeed confirmed that Shadow of the Erdtree is the biggest expansion From Software has ever worked on. This was followed up with a comment to Eurogamer that players can expect an area larger than Limgrave in terms of surface. This specific point has now created some confusion or even a mild controversy online, as many players were expecting the expansion to be much larger than just one zone of the base game. First of all, it's important to note that many interviews are notably wrong or misleading in the early stages of previews and promotion. This is the result of the developer being guarded on the information provided and the aim to underpromise and overdeliver, and of course sometimes because of translation. For the specific comment regarding Limgrave, my takeaway is that the expansion will operate much like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and simply add a new zone which will have sub-areas and dungeons within it. The official website emphasizes an area size in both the English and Japanese versions of the game, calling them vast maps. They also go on to emphasize seamless transition from dungeon to field and intricate world design. Reading between the lines, I think this means that we won't be getting empty vast spaces, but rather a more focused approach to a very carefully designed area with a wealth of content. This would be a similar approach to Bloodborne that added only 4 new areas, but almost doubled the endgame trick weapons, giving players new ways to approach the whole game. The Eurogamer interview reinforces this perspective, stating that the expansion difficulty would be comparable with endgame, which means that the developer is expecting that you'll pick up new tools and builds and move on to New Game Plus with them. The trailer revealed several characters, boss encounters, enemies, and showed off some new equipment and skills. Let's break it down. We know from the developer interview that there will be more than 10 new boss fights. We do not know if these are simply field bosses, which could be quite underwhelming in terms of boss encounters for From Software, or if Miyazaki was thinking of the harshest of boss fights. In this instance, I'm inclined to believe he meant serious boss fights, as Limgrave alone has something like 30 boss encounters when including field bosses, so if you're looking at something of comparable size with legacy dungeons and more density, there's no way they only fit 10 or so in there. Feeling quite excited by the thought that it's 10 new main boss fights and who knows how many smaller ones, the biggest game changer for me is going to be the 8 new weapon categories to be added to the game. This is a massive increase similar to Bloodborne, as there are currently 31 categories and 8 more represents a 25.8% increase. The simplest guess here is that we're getting some new types of magic with their own weapon type, new melee equipment options, and some new ranged options. On the specific point, as I mentioned in the trailer impressions video, there's a line that mentions, take on these threats with the new powers you can acquire. This could be related to the weapons, but it could also mean we may get some new specific abilities such as those from the Great Runes. I would really like to see something like this in a more impactful way and have it affect gameplay radically, so I'm hoping I'm reading this correctly. In terms of other content and going by how previous expansions have worked, we can expect to see a whole set of new enemies and a complement of new skills, Ashes of War, talismans, and armor. If we stick to the numbers from Limgrave as a reference, this could mean over 18 NPCs, 40 wildlife creatures and enemies, plus over 100 unique items, ashes, keys, magic, and equipment. To give you some perspective, the Artorias of the Abyss expansion for Dark Souls added 5 spells, 5 NPCs, 4 bosses, and 33 total mix of items, weapons, and armor. The conclusion I'm drawing here is that we're going to get the Bloodborne treatment of an expansion area that's not vast in size versus total game, but has depth of content and mechanics that will radically change how you approach and feel about the entire Elden Ring experience. Now onto the specific additions revealed by the trailer. Let's have a frame-by-frame look. The first pans of the Shadowlands has the character and Torrent speeding down a road, literally following Mikla's path as shown in the previous teaser art, where Torrent and Mikla navigate the same field. The area is littered by graves that we can presume are from the cleansing, and in the background we see what I'll call the Erdtree, a withered and smoldering version of the familiar Erdtree of the base game that is almost behind a sort of veil and may well signal this is a purgatory land or what lies beyond. As the scene expands, you can observe the roots embedded into the landscape, reminding me of Deathroot and reinforcing the grave and blight theme of the area. You're next treated to a close-up of a new armor set, which we can presume will be rather heavy and is a bit similar to the Carrion Knight set, and importantly, a symbol of what looks like a crescent with a cross or star. This could be the DLC version of Guidance by Grace, but it's most likely a Great Rune, as the symbol looks like a tweaked version of the Great Rune of the Unborn. The next scene depicts a different landscape, this time with a reddish sky and sunset glow, and yet another new armor set and large greatsword, with the armor draped in what looks to be fur, not unlike Blythe's. This is most likely an NPC set. Further along, the sky changes again to a bluish tinge and showcases yet another armor set that looks extremely heavy and maybe made of ceramic. Could it be pot related? We don't know. But it does remind me somewhat of the Sentinels from the base game. It is holding a giant version of a fire pot. Later on in the trailer we'll see that this is a new throwable item. Now things get interesting, showing another new set with a zoom into a white masked figure laying on a bed of flowers, similar to those you see around Millennia Blade of Mikla. This is yet another new armor set and a small environment reveal. Could this character laying here be a masked Mikla? We don't know. The next area is a large and destroyed audience room with purple filmed braziers and eerie blue candles. At the throne of this room sits a regal NPC with regalia somewhat reminiscent of Renala's style, a shorter hat and larger exuberant colored robe. This is another armor you will most likely be able to obtain. The pace changes to show the Tarnished riding through a blighted swamp with dead trees, roots, and what seems to be a poisoned but smoldering ground. We know Miyazaki confirmed that he loves doing swamps, and seemed to imply there would be more than one, so this confirms the first look. A portrait is then shown that depicts a lordly couple with a woman touching her stomach and placing a hand on the man. It would be logical to assume that this is the mother referenced by the voiceover of the trailer, but there's too many ways this could go to be definitive. This could be Fia and her late husband, for instance. As we continue, the Tarnished is seen exploring an underground area with large pots and low visibility requiring a torch. Could this be where the pots are from or created? This is most likely a legacy dungeon or an exploration dungeon within the new region, and the segue to a very interesting view that took me right to Volcano Manor from the base game. A magma area with a large chain platform is seen. Since the theme of the DLC seems to have a lot to do with fire and cleansing, the tree in the area is indeed smoldering. It's possible this area is actually near or within the tree. After that peak, we're shown what is most likely one of the main legacy dungeons of the DLC, a quite beautiful fortress with white walls and beautiful pillars. The top of the fortress is, however, disintegrating and disappearing to ashes, likely due to the fading of the tree. Reinforcing the fire theme, a giant construct of iron and fire is seen standing up, which is most likely the opening cutscene for a boss fight similar to that of the fire giant in the base game, and includes large AoE fire attacks. More enemies are shown, including a repugnant worm-like creature and a surprising boss fight with a pseudo-Chinese dragon using massive lightning attacks and death blight that actually made me think of Wukong's trailer we highlighted a little while back. The foot of this character looks strikingly similar to the foot of Margit from the base game, indicating this is possibly an omen or related to him in some way. The trailer returns to now show the main antagonist of the expansion, Mesmer the Impaler, who seems to summon fire magic that has some effect akin to blood, aka Blood Flame. The brief glimpse of this character segues into action, showing dual-wielding attacks with a new paired weapon against new enemies in an underground area, grass and water, and showcasing a specific dash move. Note how one of the blades is held upside down. A nighttime scene is also shown where Tarnished used a new throwing knife skill and potentially another new paired weapon against a new type of enemy that uses a large cleaver. The trailer then crescendos to the full-blown animation of an entirely new magic, pink-colored, and with lots of butterfly effects, which may mean it has a connection to Mikla and could be Mesmer magic. Next up, we see full-on martial arts with some sort of skill that enables the Tarnished to create flying kicks, Mortal Kombat style, against yet another new enemy type that's wielding a new twin blade. Then we can see a Tarnished using a new armor set and a new ranged weapon that fires several projectiles in quick succession, and some sort of new beast roar similar to the dragon magic we know from the base game, but with a bear's head. Another area is then revealed featuring a samurai facing off against what looks like one of Millicent's sisters in a night field with blue flowers and fireflies. This is another armor set and weapon reveal, as these are not in the base game. Another boss is shown, this time a knight mounting a large boar using a purple lightning enchanted lance. This is a new kind of magic not currently in the game and probably another armor set we can obtain. Another boss is then shown, a large hippo beast crawling across shallow water and summoning large protective spikes around its head, before returning to an underground area with suspicious flowers to show a large albinaric boss with a broken steed, wielding a massive curved club that can be thrown like a disc or boomerang. As the trailer nears its end, another possible boss is shown, a creature clad in aged yellow robes and impaled by golden shards, followed by more details on the fight with the Mesmer, showcasing some of his moves and the sort of twin-blade shield combo weapon that we've never seen before. Additionally, we can see the Tarnished used a winged ability that Crucible Knights are well known for, finally implemented into the game, presumably as an Ash of War or perhaps as a mysterious power that we touched upon earlier. And the trailer closes off with a glimpse of Miquella standing before what we'll call the Shadow Tree. With all this content, you know what this means. I'm about to add another 100 builds to our builds collection and another 8 best weapon of Elden Rings to our series. I'll of course be aiming to finish the current series by June, so feel free to drop ideas or suggestions in the comments. Another aspect that is reinforced throughout the promotional materials about Shadow of the Erdtree is freedom. Freedom to make your character, your build, your progression, your choices. In this sense, we can expect that the expansion difficulty will be on par with the base game, where the most challenging encounters were optional to complete, but Miyazaki also hinted that they wanted to make the expansion possible to access and exit. From this, I would assume that the entry point to the Shadowlands will be relatively early in the game. Given that the DLC story follows Miquella, I assume the most obvious place would be Mohg's Palace, by touch the Withered Arm and travel to the Realm of Shadow. But it's possible there may also be an entrance from the Rose Church in Liurnia, or a simple gateway unlocked by some NPC interaction or special item. The plot itself is clearly laid out. Miquella set off to the Land of Shadow, discarding divinity, body, and golden power. These lands were scorched by Mesmer in a cleansing after a holy war, which seems to refer to the Crucible. I don't want to go too deeply into this, but we have a whole series of lore shorts and a lore page on the wiki that can really help piece together the background leading to this expansion. It's also important to note that while there are clues and many theories to be had, often surrounding Deathblight, Melina, smoldering butterflies, graves, and blood, the official materials clearly state a story never told before, so the expansion is going to be filling in blanks and adding context to the existing game, not repeating what you already know. With the gameplay and release date, so came pre-orders. You can now pre-order Shadow of the Erdtree for $39.99 USD as an upgrade to your base game. There's also a premium edition priced at $49.99, and shockingly, a full-on collector's edition that includes a figure of the Mesmer for $249.99 USD. By pre-ordering any of the available editions for Shadow of the Erdtree, players will be able to obtain a special gesture called Ring of Miquella. The standard edition of Shadow of the Erdtree contains a copy of the DLC, while the premium bundle contains a copy of the DLC, a digital art book, and the original soundtrack. The collector's edition also contains a Shadow of the Erdtree voucher code, official soundtrack, 40-page hardcover art book, and a 46cm statue of Mesmer the Impaler. And that's all we have for this video analyzing the Elden Ring DLC gameplay trailer, but we'd love to hear your thoughts and theories. Will you be playing the game in anticipation of the DLC? Is there any content you'd like to see before June? What are you most excited about for the expansion? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below.